Yay, I'm live finally. Okay, so I got my web camera working and there's been some internet weirdness at my house. We changed a box that we're using, an internet box, and we have this week to test it out. The verdict is we're probably going to go back to what we had before. So sorry about that interruption. I'm going to master this live streaming stuff at some point. So I had one question only from Jessie, and it was about balancing day-to-day stuff with the bigger energies that are around. And it's kind of like, it's a good question because it's kind of like everything. It is, to me, that is like the ultimate question. That is what everything is that we do. If we want to do it holistically, I'm not sure if that makes sense. I was reading something about reflexivity, and I'm doing this research into reflexivity and the difference between reflection and reflexiveness in terms of resilience and self-care. And reflection is this idea of looking back, like reflecting on things that have already happened, looking into them and learning from past experiences. But reflexivity involves, like, there's this idea of like reflexive movement. So, you know, getting your reflexes checked is probably the most mundane way of putting that, where if you hit a certain joint, you will react by moving. And there's sort of like unconscious movements that you have in response to some kind of input. Reflexivity in terms of reflexive theory in terms of psychology that I've been reading about is more about looking back, looking in and looking ahead, and being able to react in the moment, considering all of those things at once. So it's quite a complex state of being, but I feel like it's kind of what this is about. It's about the same idea as looking at day-to-day practice, which is sort of one cycle that we move around within and for. And then there is this idea of time, big time. So in our lifetimes, there's these sort of cycles that we move in and around and for. And then we have these sort of like, even like we can expand that idea to the cycles that we live by, I guess, from day to day to big cosmic energies. And I guess the idea of all of it, and this came up in the reading yesterday with the medicine wheel, is that it all kind of comes back to this one point in the center. There has to be a center point, and the only center point that anyone can really understand completely is themselves as the center point. So I guess if there is an imbalance between how to get through the day-to-day stuff and managing that within a bigger system, a system of larger energies that are at play, it's about sort of like going back into the center of who you are and then sort of pushing who you are out into those energetic systems, because that gives a sense of control. Okay, let me think of an example. Something like, I'm trying to write an assessment, which is my lived reality at the moment, but there's also other people in my circle having their day-to-day lives as well. And they're people that I care about and that I want to be there for and that I have established a certain relationship with. So that means if I'm being called to help them or to be there for them, that's an energy outside of what my lived experience is. My center of my medicine wheel is in direct communication with the center, them in their center of their medicine wheel. And I'm essentially being asked to leave where I am to go and join someone somewhere else. And I can't figure out if that's disruptive to my day-to-day, what I need to get done in my day-to-day sort of movement, or if it's some bigger picture, bigger energy that is guiding me towards somewhere else to get a different insight that's ultimately going to help when I go back to that, my own center point. And for me, that's where intuition is a really big, it's a really vital part of how we make decisions, and this idea of reflexive action. So I don't know, I'm still putting together intuition and reflexivity. It hasn't quite merged yet, but my idea of balancing day-to-day stuff with bigger energies is that the first thing I would do is go back to the center. So in this reflexive theory, it would be going in rather than looking ahead and looking back. It's going in. I would go back to my center and thinking about who I am, where I am, why I am, and then kind of going, okay, what is pulling me in terms of the day-to-day or bigger energies? What like feeling around to where I'm being pulled and called. And as I'm moving towards that, constantly checking what's ahead and what's behind, how this could pan out, and what the past has taught me about these steps that I'm taking. Have I taken these steps before? If I have, what's different? What's the same? What can I expect? When should I let go of expectation? And that I think is all like intuition. So if we kind of think of intuition as our core muscle, so okay, so here's the thing. I fell on my tailbone the other day and it really fucking hurt. And it's a bruise, nothing's broken, it's all good. But what I realized in that moment, which you kind of know logically and rationally, but what I really felt in the recovery, what I am feeling and what I felt, especially when that happened, was how much is connected to, how much of my core muscles are connected to that area of my body through the experience of pain. Like it was highlighted to me because my attention was taken there. I feel like we use our core muscles every day without thinking about it. It's a reflexive response to our movement and to our environment. We have a reflexive response to being on a planet that's spinning around really fast. Do you know what I mean? Like there are subtle movements at play that are bigger energies at play that we just through our on a physiological level through our core muscles we adjust to and adapt to. We learn this the moment we're born, even in utero. So then if we consider the relationship between this and our intuition is like the core muscles, but it's the core muscles of our self-reflection or our self-understanding. So whenever I feel like there's an imbalance in a whole bunch of stuff, I would, a language that I used to use was go back to my intuition, build on my intuition. Now I'm thinking it's like working your core strength. So that to me is, what are my morals? What are my ideals? What are my hopes? What are my dreams? And what do I know of my time here in this body, on this planet? And how is all of that going to affect all of who I am? Who do I want to become? What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? All of this stuff that can like send you into a frenzy of over-analysis, like overthinking and self-criticism and all this kind of stuff. But if you just know and trust that all of that is part of your intuition, so instead of going in that movement of, okay, I've gone back in because everything's out of balance, and then I look out and go, what is calling me? What is the first thing that calls me? And you just hold on to that thread and you listen to your gut instinct. Do I go this way or do I not go this way? And if you do, then you get to there and you go, okay, what's the next thing that's calling me? And then the next thing, you take it really back to the basics of being in a spot, waiting for something to call you to the next spot, and then going to the next spot, and then being in that next spot, waiting for the next thing to call you, going to that next spot. And if it doesn't call you, then you don't change your spot. Simple as that. It doesn't have to be an over-analysis. But here's the thing. If you don't occasionally work on who you are, then those day-to-day imbalances are going to be bigger, because you won't be able to just reflexively move forward. You will have to actually stop and analyze in every moment. And with self-reflection and self-analysis, you can often go through a whirlwind of emotions and drag yourself this way and that way, backwards and forwards and in and out, and to the big picture and to the little picture, and all of these different circles and cycles that we pass through every moment of every day. And that can be too much in a moment when you need to make a decision on the fly. So I guess that's my advice, is like, work on it when it's not vital. Work on who you are when you're not called to stand up and make some choices around balancing and decision making and things like that. And just have faith that whether it's a day-to-day thing or a big thing, whether it's mundane or magical, whether it's whether it's any of the, like, just get rid of we need to get rid of the, what's it called? Oh God, I should have had another coffee. We need to get rid of the sort of like the poles of everything. The poles are just there to create an opening to go through. But if we focus too much on the difference between this one and this one, we're forgetting the space in the middle. And that's the space where we can go, oh, do I want to go in there or not? If not, then you just stay and wait for the next gate to open, or the next gate to open, or the next poles to separate and create some kind of space in between them. Choosing to enter and go into those spaces is not necessarily about picking which side is better, the day-to-day or the big energy, which side is more important, which side you need to focus on. It's just about, like, are they both holding that space? And if they are, do I want to move into it? I find that astrology kind of helps with that too, because I can kind of go, all right, so a big thing that might be happening could be, I don't know, one of the outer planets has just moved into another, is traveling in another astrological sign. So that is something that doesn't happen very often. So it's associated with big energy, because it's, we've spent a lot of years getting used to the energetics of, I can't remember, this is how terrible I am. I think it's Pluto's moved into something. Anyway, but we've spent years getting used to that energy, and there's a lot of people who are born under the influence of that energy and have grown under the influence of that energy, and now the energy is shifting. Now, it doesn't shift bang straight away, but it is a big energy that is making movement and changing. And then we have, like, the moon that's in a different astrological sign every, what is it, like day and a half or something. So there's that that change happens pretty quickly. So, but those two energies can happen concurrently around us. How we choose to absorb them and create and generate sort of like the balance of who we are and what they are outside of us, how we choose to, I guess, interact with these energies is how we can bring balance within ourselves. So, for example, if I know that, the whatever energy the moon is in is not good for me in that moment, but I know I want to find balance, part of me can say, well, this is the core muscle. This is the intuitive part that I shouldn't even be thinking about, because I've learned it and I've experienced it. But part of me would be unconsciously going, well, it's only a day and a bit, so can I hang in there? If I can't, so I need to change spot, I can't stay in the same spot, then I will go to another energy, another energetic pattern that's playing out, and I'll go, well, can I connect with whatever this big planet is on the, I can't remember, not big planet, but outer planet that's making a movement. Can I hook into that to bring balance to whatever this energy is holding for me? Does that make sense? I don't even know if it does. Another way of looking at it, when I know that Jessie, who asked this question, has done the mentorship program that I offer, and we look at the cycles within cycles within cycles and putting everything on that Wheel of the Year map, and how if it's midwinter, but you need to generate some energy around that is associated with midsummer, you might do it at midday, because midday is associated with midsummer, but you can't create midsummer energy at midwinter when it comes to where our planet is tilting. So instead, you would represent that energy by doing it at midday or full moon or other things that you might associate with midsummer. So yeah, I guess that's one way of creating balance between all of those things, is to just kind of go, all right, well, this is knowing where the imbalance is clearly is the first place to start, and then going in and figuring out what will bring balance to that imbalance, and then weaving the two things together, going back out again and finding it and weaving those two things together. Anyway, I hope that helped. I hope it didn't create more drama, but I'm here if you need me. And see you next month for AMA.